it, and he decided, we both decided, that we had never heard a flugelhorn solely. You guys know flugelhorns? Show me your flugelhorns. You guys all have flugelhorns? So those flugelhorns are kind of featured in the middle of this piece, and this is one I wrote, and it's called From Another Dimension. From Another Dimension. to play a beautiful ballad, and it's written by a gentleman that you may or may not be familiar with, probably aren't familiar with. You know, there's been a few dukes in jazz, the most famous being Duke Ellington. This gentleman was also known as the Duke. He was Duke Pearson. And Duke Pearson, he was the artist and repertoire, facilitator for Blue Note Records. He was the one who discovered Herbie Hancock. He discovered Joe Henderson. He discovered Freddie Hubbard, all of the great musicians from the 50s and 60s. And he also was an amazing piano player and composer, and this is one of his most beautiful compositions. And he calls this one, You Know I Care. You Know I Care. Thank you, we really appreciate it. It's very nice to meet you. And, you know, we're in the business of improvisation. That's what we do. You know, I'm from New Jersey. I'm not actually from New Jersey, but I guess, you know, I won't. But I'm the director of jazz studies at Rutgers University in New Jersey. And I've been living in New York for about 35 years. And what I would say is that improvisation is really a part of our lives as Americans. We don't realize it sometimes, but, you know, most of the great figures who we revere, you know, when you think about people like Henry Ford or Thomas Edison, great presidents, George Washington. George Washington was an amazing improviser. You know, to be able to do what he did and you know, defeat the British, he defeated the most powerful, you know, army on earth by totally improvising. Abraham Lincoln was an improviser. One of my heroes, Dr. Martin Luther King, obviously. And you know, what these students tonight are accomplishing is an amazing thing, because really, jazz can be defined as freedom when you think about it. All these musicians from, you know, the first band, the second band, when they get up to play a solo, there's not an entity or a force on this planet that tells them what to play. They alone choose what to play. It's an amazing, enlightening and liberating art form. And it's uniquely American. Of course, you know, I travel around the world and, you know, I go to Japan. I was just in Japan for New Year's, and there's Japanese jazz musicians. We have Australian jazz musicians. I have a great friend who, he's Russian. He grew up in the Soviet Union, and he was a student at the Moscow Conservatory. He's a great trumpet player. His name is Alexander Sipiarian. And he told me he grew up in Soviet days, and he wanted to listen to jazz, and when he was in his dorm room at the Moscow Conservatory, he had to get under his bed, put the mattress there, put pillows over, put headphones, and he would listen to the Voice of America and to the jazz radio. And he said that was the sound of freedom for him, you know, and it's amazing, amazing art form. And what really makes me angry at times is when I read in the paper, and somebody, or in a jazz magazine or Time magazine, every 5 or 10 years, somebody comes out and says, jazz is dead. Well, what we know for a fact, and we're small but mighty here in the audience right now, right, is that jazz is alive and well on the stage. Would you agree? Can we get a round of applause for that? It's the truth. You know, jazz is alive and well. And you know, when you think about improvisation, and you think about being spontaneous, and also you know, non-linear thinking, being able to be part of a team, and then get up and solo and do it on your own is amazing. You know, and I was thinking the other day, if I was in the hospital, in a surgical theater, if I was on the, you know, the operating table, and something went horribly wrong, I would be really, really happy that my surgeon, that she had been a jazz saxophonist in her, you know, jazz ensemble, because she would know how to improvise and save my life, right? And then I was thinking, that's the cure for everything that ails us, because you know, there's all this, you know, controversy about Obamacare and everything else. Well, if everybody would just play jazz, they'd all be able to improvise, and we would, you know, we'd solve a very complicated problem with a very simple solution, right? We'd all be improvisers. And so, you know, I appreciate your listening. I appreciate your being here. You know, tell your friends. And I also really want to have a round of applause for Dr. John Ginocchio. Dr. G, could you please give a round of applause? And the reason is because it's his vision to continue this, you know, tradition of bringing jazz artists. He's brought some of the greatest jazz artists in the world here, and I feel very blessed, you know, to be here. But you know, you have to tell your friends. I mean, and I'm not. It doesn't affect us personally, because you know what? We've even discussed it with the band. If there was 5 people here, 50 people,